Two Queers in a Truck. And I'm Billy James Gunn, and my sidekick, Christian Cano, partner with Gunn, is coming up next.
Hey everyone, I'm Jim's sidekick. Welcome to Two Queers in a Truck. Hi y'all.
See you soon. Good morning, everybody. It is Two Queers in a Truck time, and it is January 21st.
Wow.
For y'all that are keeping track at home. And
2026.
I'm still getting used to the 2020. I keep saying 2025, obviously, like I did last year, but I keep saying 2024. It takes me at least till March or April to get the year right. Just taught on myself. I mean,
is that why you're still 35? It just takes a while.
Exactly. The exact same reason. I had my 21st anniversary of my 35th birthday.
That's right.
Because nobody's gonna believe I'm 25, but 35.
Yeah. That's a good. That's a good.
Really, but
that's right.
You know who really cares? But anyway, we'll jump right into it. And been watching, or we watched the last couple nights, my wife and I, a TV show, a short run series called Heated Rivals, and it is about these gay hockey players. And if you haven't seen it, it's a delight. Now, if you don't like man-on-man loving, or it affects your sensibilities, which I don't know what anybody that listens or watches the Two Queer show, I'm not sure that you guys.
That's going to be an issue.
But I'm going to give the disclaimer: there is quite a bit of sex scenes in this. It's not all sex scenes, but there is some very. They don't pull any punches. It's not heavily edited. There's no doubt what they're doing on screen. But the heart of the story is that there's these professional hockey players, and they're heated rivals. One's Russian, one's Canadian, and they turn pro. Pro hockey players, not gays. I mean, I guess they go gay pro too on the gay stuff, but they are in this era, and it's not set in today's time. It's set in the earlier 2000s. I think it starts somewhere around 2010 or 2008 or 2012, something like that. And it's mostly in the late 2000s, late to mid 2000s. I think the most up to date time was about 2017. So it's kind of Obama era, the world. If y'all want to get a reference, if you've seen the show, then you don't need any explanation. And it's neither here nor there. There's actually 3 hockey players altogether that are gay. 2 of them in a relationship with each other, and another one that's a secondary character that they spend an entire episode and some parts of others highlighting him, especially towards the end of the season. And the reason I'm pointing this out is the moral to the story is they're all petrified as pro athletes, and especially a very macho sport like a full contact sport like hockey, just the same way with pro football too. As somebody that played Texas high school football, I can't imagine coming out in Texas in my high school days as gay or trans, either one. Even though I was both, and but just in the deeply in the closet behind the vault door of toxic masculinity and Texan the toxic masculinity in every form. And the reason I'm talking about this, not really to talk about gayness or coming out, is that there's so many people in the Democrat Party that are afraid to be liberal. And it kills us. It kills us. It's the selling point is to the common theme, and I see this all the time, is there's so many progressive liberal Democrats mute their own voices to be quote unquote electable. And just like when I'm sitting here talking about the graphicness of the gay sex on this show about gay men playing hockey, as a disclaimer to an audience that I don't know how many of what our percentage of listeners to the show is queer, but I'm assuming most people that are going to listen to Two Queers on Truck at least are an ally to being full-blown queer of some type. Democrats' base is liberal and progressive. And why the fuck we don't pander to that base, why we're so afraid, and we are fucking afraid, as a political party. Not all. There's the young lady from Texas, Jasmine Crockett. It's some people in our party, AOC to a certain extent, Bernie to a certain extent. I think he's more performative. I think he's more of a clown show than he is actually a progressive. I think he was a one hit wonder that the hit already passed him by. He had his 15 minutes and he won't go away. And he's another topic on why I think Bernie Sanders hurts the political party and needs to retire from politics. But so many people, and even people in North Carolina, especially in North Carolina and Texas, that are elected officials. Prime example, and I love the guy, voted for the guy, Jeff Jackson. Prime example of painting himself as a moderate Democrat. Trying to appeal to almost conservative lights, like those exist. And now let's compare and contrast that with Republicans. The only thing Republicans are afraid of being seen as is gay, even though probably half of the men in the MAGA party are cocksuckers. They're gay. They're fucking flaming homosexuals. They're gay. I feel gayer when I go to a Republican meeting than when I go to a Democrat meeting. I'm like, do they know how gay they are, and how many big old queens are in the MAGA party? But they're not worried about being seen as conservative. In fact, the more outlandish conservative Nazi fascist things they say, the better off they feel like they are. And their base laps it up like water to somebody wandering the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. Versus Democrats, and this is why we lose. This is, if you want to point the finger statistically on why we lose and why so many Democrats sat out in 2024 versus 2020, almost 19 million Democrats stayed home in 2024. And let me tell you why. Is especially millennials and Gen Z voters want to see you wear your politics on your sleeve. They don't care what you are. They just want to know who you are. They want you to keep it real. They've lived through multiple wars, multiple fascist regimes under George W. Bush and now Trump. Many millennials are 9/11 Wars for Profits veterans. And they want you to keep it real. They don't want the plastic banana version of you. So if you're a liberal or a progressive, be that. Just come out. Be who you are. We want to see the real you. warts and all. Maybe with a filter on Snapchat, but they want to see who you are as a person. They want that realness, that tangibility, and that's what's killed us. Is we don't appeal to our base. And the irony of irony is that the millennial Gen Z generation, which I lump them in one generation more or less, their value system is such that they're very much less afraid to come out generation. They're very much very accepting. 80% of straight people in that generation are very accepting of queer people. There's a lot less racism. There's a lot less sexism to a certain extent with those generations. It's a more hopeful generation from the fact that prejudice seems to be dying. Also, religiosity, not ironically, religiosity is very low with those generations. They're not conservative religious people in general. I mean, there is conservative religious people, i.e., Nick Fuentes, Charlie Kirk, Madison Cawthorn.
They're like unicorns.
That. Yeah, but they're rare in that generation.
Yeah,
the leadership of the MAGA movement and the alt Christian movement is Gen X and up. It tends to be older. It gives you a chance to be born again multiple times, I guess. Maybe they're more Buddhist than they realize. They reincarnate themselves as an asshole, but Democrats, and I've said this many times on all of our shows, the Coffee Show and this show, the Democrats, there's too many copycats and fraidy cats in our political party. Copycats where they see, that it's okay to be transphobic, so I'll go ahead and be transphobic. And fraidy cats, they're scared to be themselves. They're scared to support issues that may look like socialism. Even though Republicans love socialism, they love government programs. They just want it to go to specific people, i.e., white men.
Exactly.
Wealthy white men. They love sweet socialism. Or if they think they're entitled, older white veterans, things that do. They just don't want it to go to a black single mom in the ghetto.
Exactly.
They don't want it to go to some, El Salvadorian, immigrant that's probably a criminal and buying drugs with that sweet socialism money anyway. That's their biggest fear, even though literally none of that really happens. The myth of the welfare queen and the immigrant taking advantage of the system couldn't be further from the truth. But we are up against our first break, and when we come back, we'll dive a little deeper into that mythology, so to speak, on both sides of the fence. After these important messages. Hey, everybody, you can catch us on your favorite audio podcast platform, Spotify, and all Apple Store, the Google machine, and whoever else does podcasts. We're on there. We broke in, and we're staying. So enjoy the Two Queers in the Truck on your favorite audio podcast platform. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye, boo. Happy Pride. And we are back. In fact, I'll take that subject a little further with topic number 3 and say Republicans are the biggest communists. Republicans are the Communist Party of the United States. They're just like the party of Putin or the leadership in China. They're identical. They want to squash protests. They're willing to shoot protesters now. They are rolling the tranks in the military. They got a secret police, just like communists and fascists do. Dictators, authoritarianism is been in high swing in this country for a while, but it's definitely stepped up, or maybe it's more obvious now. It's doing it out in plain sight in the internet era. That even with camera phones, they're getting to the point where they don't care. They're not even try to hide their fascism. They're doing direct quotes from the Nazi Party of Germany. Like they're literally sitting on podiums and quoting it. And more than one, Christian Cano just did it a few months ago. Stephen Miller did it, so on and so forth. They are the party of Putin. They operate the same way, and Putin wants to recreate the USSR, but a 21st century version of it. He's made that very clear. That's why he invaded Ukraine. He believes Ukraine is part of Russia, i.e., the Soviet Union. He is a Cold War relic that wants the Soviet Union to be the Soviet Union. He wants all of Eastern Europe to be back into the greater Russia, Mother Russia. And Putin crushes his rivals the same way Trump wants to crush his. No opposition. You get jailed for that. You can be jailed for being gay. He killed his strongest rival. I mean, technically, the guy got accidentally poisoned in prison. Like falling on a knife 20 times. Some mafia rival falls on a knife 20 times in a shower, but and or Epstein hung himself. It's our problem is they're not afraid to be who they are, except for the gay part. Republicans and fascists are not afraid to be seen as that. They don't like it when they get called that because it's very accurate. Versus Democrats are afraid to talk about sweet socialism. We're afraid to talk about helping the people, which is one of the most populist messages ever. And Republicans will say, we all are just trying to buy votes. I said, what are y'all doing? But buy votes. By the way, what happened to the tariff rebate we were supposed to get? I thought we were supposed to get $2,000 of that sweet Trump bucks. And I mean real American dollars, not actual Trump fake bucks that you can't cash at Bank of America. Where is that sweet socialism that he was selling? Because the tariffs made so much fucking money. Why aren't we getting our $2,000 checks? I want my money. I want it now. Where is it? Where is it? Like the old commercial for Wendy's, where's the beef? Where's the cash? Of course, the bag of farts, also known as Trump, it's just more hot gas, so to speak. We all know we're not getting the $2,000 checks. Something that was never, ever passed in Congress, nor was the money allocated in the Treasury, nor is there a spending bill that was ever passed to allocate that money. But, little technicalities like that don't tend to bother Trump too much. As he eyeballs Greenland like a fucking T-bone steak. And I'm not going to really spend too much time talking about Greenland because we're going to do what we're going to do, just like with Venezuela. I told y'all last year we were going to invade Venezuela for its oil. And we got oil executives running presidential meetings in the White House this last couple weeks, which Trump got up in the middle of them after ripping about 12 farts and walked off and crop dusted about half those oil executives and just stared out the window in that room in the White House. Just looked out the window and just stared out. Was pointing out some birds or something like that. Just nonsensically gets up. And then the other day he read a note from one of his cabinet members, Marco Rubio, just read the private note aloud in the meeting.
He's so stupid.
But he's so fit to be president. Mm-hmm. Biden was so senile and sleepy Joe. I don't remember Biden ever getting up from a meeting after ripping 12 farts straight and just going up and staring out the window.
He was
or reading a staffer's note aloud when it was clearly meant to just be read and then turn face down. but that's who's running. Well, that's who's theoretically running the country. I mean, Trump's not really running the country per se. He spends too much time on the golf course actually running the country, but he's the figurehead that is ahead of the MAGA movement that is running the country. And his staff, including the puppy killer, Christian Cano, and all these idiots, if they're not shooting somebody in the streets, we're bombing a country. We've bombed and blown up 8 countries this year, including Venezuela. We've attacked.
Gersemi, can I follow up on something that you said about
fire away.
Handing the note? You know, as a producer for several shows, when Rubio handed him the note, it showed and it highlighted how disorganized and how they just play it by. There's no plan when they have these meetings. It's just bullshit. It's bullshit. Because it's equivalent to you saying and me typing, "Hey, Gersemi, why don't you go back to this?" You know, it's like coaching someone, you know? And the fact that he handed him the note means that he was either going off script or Rubio was reading the crowd and he was realizing, okay, we need to go back to this person or whatever. It was like directing someone in a way. And and Trump is so it was amateur hour.
Well, he doesn't. He doesn't. I think people think it's attitudinal. He just between the senility and the dementia that he has, obviously, and the fact he just doesn't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
Why would he? There's no punishment for his behaviors. The guy's said the craziest things in the 4 years he wasn't president, in between presidencies. It didn't keep him from getting reelected. He said crazy shit in 2016. It didn't keep him from getting elected the first time. The dude does and says whatever the fuck he wants because there's no consequence. Why would he not? This guy's lived nothing but a hog at a trough life with no consequence, where somebody just keeps putting the feed into the trough and like really good food, and he's eating well. He's eating way more than his fair share of life. And he does not give a flying fuck. He is a hog or a pig incarnate without a conscience. And he's devoured life to the point where he's a big, orange, demented, fat bag of farts, wheezing farts. And I mean, he just openly rips them in the meetings now. Of course, he probably can't even control it. But one of the oil executives mentioned that right before he got up, he had just ripped 12 in a row. And then just got up, said, "I don't want to smell them anymore," and went to the window, you know. And there, Marco Rubio and all those oil executives are going like, "I think he just punked us, but he doesn't really give a fuck." But they're not going to say anything. He just handed Venezuela on a silver platter to these fuckers. They're going, "We'll sniff some farts if we can fucking get this sweet oil money from Venezuela." Like, you can literally hear a cat, like they're gonna pinch their nose and like make that cash rate ring. You know, they don't care. All these people, the Saudi Arabian government doesn't care. All these people that are benefiting from it, and all the billionaires, all these different people that are directly benefiting money wise, keep bringing him little token gifts, keep bringing him opportunities for his idiot sons and his idiot son-in-law to get billions of dollars. These guys have made $6-7 billion. The Trump family has just this year, and just right out almost a year. In fact, it was a year yesterday, technically, as of this recording. He was sworn in, and they're rounding the corner towards $10 billion accumulated in family wealth just in this first year, not counting what was accumulated before, but new wealth. And as long is he's getting fed and getting his giftuses and being told his penis is not small when people come around. What does he care?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, your MSC. Here's your gift, your trinket, and your penis isn't small, just like they say in South Park. But we are up against our second break. We have some important messages, and we'll be right back with some more Two Queers in a Truck after these important messages. Hey, y'all, this is Jenny with Two Queers in a Truck, and Christian's along with me. And we're just having fun, and we're looking forward to the 2025 season and super excited. We have some neat things going on in our whole family of shows, including Coffee and Pan Dulce, and many new shows that are brewing. Get it. And we are excited for 2025 and all the chicanery and other things that comes with it. So happy New Year, and we'll see you on the flip side. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all. Bye, boo.
Bye, boo.
Hi everybody, this is Yorense from the Americo show over here. All I'm here is doing a little quick PSA. Use this summer to do volunteer work. Go to your nearest YMCA, go to your nearest homeless shelter, go to whatever community services or programs that you can help out and volunteer. Because right now, we have a bunch of fascist pieces of shit trying to rip apart our country and rip apart the people, our communities by spreading hate and bigotry. The best way to combat it is, one, working in your community and standing strong to show that you are strong and you're here to help out others. Two, combat misinformation. If you hear bullshit, first research and make sure if it's true or not. If it is not true, call it out. If it is true, get the facts. Be knowledgeable of it because it might come out later. So always stand against that. And three, fuck fascists. Stand against them. Make them feel uncomfortable. There is too many people out there feeling like they can say the hard R or say slurs or be violent. Make them understand that a lot of people die to make sure this hatred and bigotry does not exist. All our civil rights workers, all the people who restored normity, everybody who fought against intolerance and hatred, they died and worked their asses off to stop this. So follow in their footsteps and stop this madness. This is Yorense again from the Americo, and all I can say is be there for your community and stand up for what's right. Fuck fascism and have a wonderful day.
But it's wild. You know, the last two topics are a little heavy, but I think they're necessary and they're related. I've read some of the comments about the Renee Good, the young lady that was murdered in Minneapolis. And the general consensus, at least from what I can see from conservatives, is that if you don't comply, you deserve to die. Which these are the same freedoms, D-U-M-B, that whined like a couple of baby mules when we asked them to wear a little fart filter on their face and take a couple little COVID shots, a couple vaccines. These guys whine like a bunch of 2-year-olds with poopy diapers and flailed around like a bunch of impotent jerks in 2020 and 2021 especially. And when the vaccines rolled out, you'd think that we were beating them to death, even though all of them pretty much snuck out and went and got their COVID shots, but wouldn't admit it. And especially Republican officials. Trump was one of the first ones to get the COVID shot, if not the first. But I think these people that didn't want to comply, then, of course, some of them didn't comply and they did die because COVID, doesn't discriminate, which that's okay with me too. But I do think it's funny that the Second Amendment people always talk about governmental tyranny, and now you don't hear any of them speaking up. Like, oh, that's wrong. We should be going up against the authority. Like, we shouldn't have a secret police. We're not hearing that from any of the libertarians or Republicans. People like our former colleague, Stephen, are noticeably quiet about this. I haven't noticed it, and I haven't looked at his social media for a long time,
Sure.
but I don't think he's grabbed all of his guns and his tank and driven up to Washington, D.C. to stop ICE. Libertarians are noticeably quiet about ICE, even though they're violating the Fourth Amendment and a bunch of other laws. And going against the federal training was complete, the protocols were completely broken the other day in Minneapolis and here in LA, which the last two topics are combined talking. We had a gentleman that was killed at New Year's Eve here locally in Los Angeles. His name was Keith Porter. Now, the only difference between the main primary difference between these cases that's more obvious than the situation itself, because in both cases, ICE killed both people, is that Keith Porter was black and a man and fits into that other category. And whereas the white woman in Minneapolis has garnered way more attention nationally, and you're not hardly hearing about Keith Porter, even though Keith Porter actually happened, 8-9 days before Mrs. Good there in Minneapolis was murdered by ICE, or the many other people that have been murdered by ICE in the last year, which is, I think the count's pretty close to 40 people, which is like 500, 1,000% higher than ever since ICE was formed in 2003 under the Patriot Act. But it goes to speak to a lot of things. The undercurrent of racism that still very much exists in this country is that if black and brown people die, ICE, it's a sad day for the progressives and the liberals, but it's not that big of a deal. And for the conservatives, they don't give a shit either way. No matter who they are. In fact, they're going really hard at this woman, mainly because she's white and a lesbian, or was a lesbian. She's dead now. But very much beating the drum that you comply or you die, especially with her. Even though technically she was complying by trying to drive away. That's what they originally told her to do, is to drive away. And then she resisted that, and so they charged at her, and then she started to get away, and they weren't good with that. They wanted to go ahead and change her name to Example and murder her in the streets of Minneapolis. Because it wasn't good enough to just let her get away. But we're at that point of fascism, is the shoot first, worry about the consequences later type dealio, which isn't necessarily the funniest topic to end this episode with. But the irony of irony is, which is remotely humorous, is how 4 or 5 years ago, these same conservatives, libertarians, and Republicans practically burnt the Capitol building down. Over 2,000 Republicans and Libertarians stormed the Republican camp, or the Capitol building, the congressional offices. Killed law enforcement, even though law enforcement was telling them to disperse and go home. And still bitch about Ashley Babbitt and the people, the protesters that did get the not protesters, the terrorists, the January 6th terrorists. They don't say she should have complied. They try to paint her as a victim. And I think it's ironic how differently the conservatives talk about Ashley Babbitt versus Renee Good or Keith Porter. The disparity between the narratives, and more so, I think about all the anti-maskers that still wore masks on the dial. They just didn't do it on the social media. Like MTG, for example, wore a mask everywhere she went, except for the congressional floor, the House floor. It was the only place she didn't want to wear the mask. There's numerous photographs of her walking through airports with the mask on. Ted Cruz the same way. His famous Cancun cruise adventure, he had a mask on in that airport when Texas froze over and he didn't give a fuck and went on his vacation anyway. But how the comply or die, people say it doesn't apply to us. They do as we say, not as we do, which is a very hypocritical Christian attitude. You see that in Christian church all the time. Do as I say, not as I do. And you see that with an authoritarian conservative type people. I heard that growing up with two conservative authoritarian parents. Do as I say, not as I do. Just do it. Don't question it. Don't bitch about it. Just do it. And Christian knows because we both grew up in Texas culture, and I'm sure, I don't want to speak for your situation, but we grew up in the same era. We're of the same generation. We grew up in basically the same place. And I know overall, you just comply. You just shut the fuck up. Do what you're supposed to do. Better, or as one of the sayings when I was growing up that many of my older family members would say is better whipped than damned. What's a very parental thing to say back in the day. And it was a very common thing. And so you still hear it today from conservatives. She should have complied. He should have complied. Said about George Floyd, the same thing. He should have complied. He shouldn't have been resisting while there was a knee on his back and he's laying face first on hot pavement in Minneapolis. Irony is that killing of George Floyd was only a few blocks from where the lady got shot this last week. That's all we have. We're in Comply or Die America. And we'll see you next week. But keep your chin up. Go do something fun. When it's cold where you at, do something indoors. If you're where I'm at, have some fun in the sunshine. Yeah. Hey y'all, thanks for watching Two Queers in a Truck. And we're deep into January, so we have got some new shows. In fact, they're coming out pretty soon. We're working on them today or the week before. But anyway, we've got some goodies coming, and we got some gems and some shows. In fact, I've already seen the script because I wrote it. But anyway, we will see you next week and look forward to a new post that'll be coming up here soon enough. Appreciate y'all's participation as always, and thank you for listening and watching. Bye y'all.
Bye y'all.
Bye, dude.